Hey everyone. Oh, yes, I still have the cast. It's not a cast, that's dramatic. It's a bandage, but I get it off next week. You'd be surprised at the amount of things I can't do because I can't flex my wrist, so. Anyways, very exciting. But today's video is about how to navigate Thanksgiving when you struggle with disordered eating, an eating disorder, body image, any of those things. And this can be a really triggering time for a lot of people for several reasons. First of all, when we're around family, a lot of times there's a lot of talk about diets. People love to talk about diets. Another issue is body comments. I know all of us have that one family member who always comments on whether or not we've gained or lost weight. And of course that can be extremely triggering. Another thing that's triggering about the holidays is just the abundance of food, and a lot of food that typically is off limits for a lot of people. So that can be really tough when you're surrounded by this food that you're afraid of. It can be very triggering. And lastly, we're just out of our routine. And especially if you've been going through recovery or, normally you're isolated, when you're out of your routine, it can really start to trigger eating disorder tendencies because our brain is looking for a way to cope with the anxiety of being out of our routine, or the things that we normally do to help us in recovery are harder to do because we don't have our routine anymore. So I remember Thanksgiving always being really, really hard for me, and I used to always say that Thanksgiving was my least favorite holiday, but that was only when I was going through my eating disorder. And I didn't really realize it till I went through recovery that my fear of food and my anxiety around food in my body were the reasons why I didn't like Thanksgiving. But I convinced myself it was because, I just don't like the type of food that's served and it's just stressful. But really, it was because of the eating disorder. But I remember feeling so anxious and so overwhelmed every time Thanksgiving came around. I was, anticipating the body comments. I was so worried about eating quote unquote too much, which, I'll get into later, but that was a huge anxiety for me. I remember planning ahead to make up for food or feeling like I had to, skip meals or exercise extra in order to earn the Thanksgiving meal. And also, gyms are always closed on Thanksgiving. Most gyms. I mean, there's a couple that are open, but most gyms are closed on Thanksgiving, and not being able to do my typical workout regime also sent me spiraling down the hole of anxiety. So maybe some of you can relate to that. I know a lot of the people that I work with definitely relate to that. So what I'm gonna do is just give you guys a series of tips to use during Thanksgiving that will help you get through it and help you stay grounded, help you eat intuitively, help you stay on track for recovery during that time. These are in no particular order. I'm reading off these notes that I took, and I just made a huge list of tips and tricks that I use and I tell my clients to use during the holidays. The first thing I wrote down was prep a response to diet talk ahead of time. So basically decide ahead of time how you want to respond to comments about diets or comments about your body or other people's body. You can either have a subject or a question that you use in order to shift the conversation away from diet talk, or you can prep a line that's personal to you, talking about or stating why you're not okay with talk about food and body. So that can look something like what I wrote here was, hey, I'm in the process of healing my relationship with food, and I'm avoiding diet talk and weight loss talk in order to help me through this journey. So I'd really appreciate it if we could talk about anything other than dieting and weight loss. And that's just one example. Do whatever feels best to you, but if you write it down in your journal ahead of time, and you can even say it in front of the mirror to practice, just having that ready can be really helpful, because in the moment, it's sort of anxiety inducing and hard to, speak eloquently, especially when you're feeling really triggered and have that stress response. Another thing I wrote down was only eat the foods you like. I know there's this social pressure to eat all the foods that are there, maybe because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings or you don't want to seem weird for not eating a certain food, but the truth is you have the right to not eat all the foods. For example, if my mom sees this, she's gonna kill me, but I hate cranberry sauce. I hate it. I don't care who makes it, I don't care what the recipe is, and my mom swears that her recipe is the best, but I seriously just think it's so gross, and so I never get the cranberry sauce. That's a self-care choice. I'm not gonna force myself to eat it because I genuinely don't like it. And this isn't like a, oh, it doesn't fit my diet or it's a fear food. No, I really just don't like the taste of it, so I'm not gonna eat it. Even if someone pushes it on me. That's another point I wanted to bring up, is there's gonna be food pushers. You guys know who I'm talking about. My dad is this way. He will constantly push food on people, and everyone has that family member that's like, do you want to eat more? Do you want to eat this? Do you want to eat this? And you say no and no and no over and over and over again, and they just seem not to believe you. For the food pushers, you just be upfront, just be direct, be like, nope, I'm good. Nope, I'm good, thank you. And eventually they'll back off. And I know that can be super annoying, but just know that you are not being rude by saying no. So yeah, remember, be really honest with yourself. If you're choosing not to eat foods that you don't like, make sure that it's coming from a place of like, no, I genuinely don't think this tastes good, rather than coming from a place of, oh, this is a fear food and I'm trying to restrict. And then to that point, it's also okay to overeat. So I know there's gonna be food pushers, there's gonna be a lot of food, but also this is one holiday. Part of the tradition is eating a lot of food, and maybe that makes you uncomfortable. You don't have to do that. Do whatever feels okay for you. But also know, like, it's just one day, and you're totally allowed to overeat from time to time. It's not gonna make or break your health. You're gonna be okay. And sometimes that's just a fun thing to do. You know, we don't have to treat food as this thing where we only eat when we're hungry and we have to stop when we're full. Like, there's wiggle room here, and it's totally just a part of the human experience to overeat from time to time. Which goes into my next point, that holiday weight gain is completely normal. If you see your body changing during this time, that makes sense, right? It's like, it's cold outside, we're inside more, we're probably moving a little bit less, and there's more festive foods around us all the time. It's like, of course we're gonna eat a little bit more than normal. You know, as long as you're still taking care of yourself and doing health promoting behaviors, gaining a little bit of weight during these next few months is not a big deal. It's really just a part of the cycle. And it makes sense too, as, you know, the weather gets colder, of course our bodies are going to change to adapt to that. Our bodies are seasonal. It makes complete sense. My body changes every single season, and that's just the natural way that our bodies react to weather change. Another tip I had written down was to also prep affirmations ahead of time. So these are going to be useful for times where you're feeling really insecure about your body, times when you are feeling triggered in any way, whether it's because of diet talk or because you're eating a fear food. So I had a couple affirmations written down that you can use, and come up with your own, you know, come up with what feels good and resonates for you, because if it comes from, you know, your own voice, it's going to have more of a positive impact. One affirmation I wrote down is like, if you hear people talking about diet culture or weight loss, just remind yourself that these people are caught in diet culture. They are victims of diet culture, and their thoughts about body and weight loss and diets is because they've been manipulated by a system that's trying to sell them weight loss and trying to sell them this idea that being thin is better. Also remind yourself that it's not your responsibility to educate everybody. You can't, if you're in that place where you feel like you can speak up and you want to talk about it, that's totally fine. I mean, I'm not going to stop you. But also know that you don't have to put that on yourself if you're not feeling up to having those really intense conversations about like, what is diet culture, what is weight stigma, and why is it harmful? Which also brings me to my next point of, not everyone is going to understand your eating disorder or your disordered eating or your relationship with food, and you have no obligation to explain that to anybody. Another thing I wrote down is knowing that you're so much more than a body. You might not be having the best body image day, because I know when I was going through my struggle with food, just knowing that I was going to be around a lot of people immediately put me in a bad body image headspace, and know that it's okay. You can always come back to that thought and deal with it later. There's no pressure to deal with it right now, and you might be feeling a little bit off with your body, but just reminding yourself that you're so much more than a body, and that nobody there is going to remember what you looked like. Nobody's going to remember what you ate. Your family and the people around you are just there to create memories with you. That's the whole point of having these get-togethers and these holidays. And know that any negative feeling, any stress, any anxiety that you're feeling is completely temporary, and it will go away. The next thing that I wrote down was, don't aim for perfection. I like to tell clients to set a goal of trying 2 new things this Thanksgiving that you haven't done in the past or haven't done since having an eating disorder. A couple ideas are try 1 fear food. Even if it's just a bite of a fear food that you have, that is a huge step for a lot of people. Another thing you could try is writing in your journal before, during, or afterwards. But you can get creative here. So just come up with 2 new things that you want to try that you feel like are really approachable for you. And if you just do those 2 things, then you've won. Next, focus on the things that you enjoy. So I know food is obviously a huge part of Thanksgiving, but there's so many other things to enjoy about Thanksgiving too. Whether it's, if you like to watch football, maybe just catching up and being able to be with your favorite family members, playing games with your family, or maybe it's watching movies. Whatever it is, try to find something else to look forward to and focus on other than food if that's going to be triggering for you or really stressful for you. And also, be kind to yourself. Imagine how you would talk to your friend, or if you're a mom, how you would talk to your kid if they were struggling during this time. And try to give yourself that same level of compassion and patience and kindness, because you are no exception. You also deserve that compassion. Next, avoid compensatory behaviors. This is so important, because in my experience and with the people that I work with, feeling like you need to compensate for the food that you've eaten or skip meals ahead of time or exercise extra ahead of time is really common. But what it does is it reinforces to the brain that we can't eat unless we earn our food, or we're only deserving of food if we compensate somehow. You are allowed to eat no matter what. Another thing you can do to prep ahead of time is to make a list of coping skills that have worked for you. It's really helpful to have a toolkit under your belt for those times of stress. So pay attention to what gives you relief or what has given you relief through your recovery. Maybe it's texting a friend. Maybe it's having that list of affirmations. Maybe it's writing in a journal. Maybe it's having a space that you can escape to, whether it's the bathroom or your car or your bedroom, to just take a few deep breaths and check in with yourself. Whatever it is, have at least 3 different coping mechanisms that you can use when things get a little crazy. And one thing I want to remind you is one mistake is not the end of the world. If you feel like you slip up or mess up at all during Thanksgiving and do something that's maybe against your recovery, it's okay. One bad day or one bad week does not ruin all the progress that you've made. Acknowledge the incident, learn from it, reflect on it, and apply that knowledge and reflection for the next time that this happens. This is all a learning experience, and those incidents can actually be really helpful for us to learn more about ourselves and be able to make things easier for us in the future. Another super helpful tip that has helped me a lot is having someone to talk to, or having someone who's going to be there that knows what you're going through. If you have someone who's going to be at your family functions or your Thanksgiving functions, so if you have someone who's going to be at these Thanksgiving events with you, that's ideal, because they can be there with you and look out for you. If not, totally okay. Even if you just have someone that you can text when things come up, when you just need that additional support, that can be game changing. So try reaching out to a friend, having someone that you can on speed dial, someone that you can just text when things get rough. And if you don't have someone you feel like you can text or have on speed dial, DM me. Seriously, I will support you during Thanksgiving. If this is a really stressful time for you, I can be there for you. So just DM me on Instagram. One really crucial tip is eat regular meals on Thanksgiving. I think a lot of people feel the pressure to skip meals or not eat all day until they have the Thanksgiving dinner. But what can really help is eating regular meals, because then you're not going to feel like crazy hungry. You're not going to feel this urge to just binge, and you won't get caught in the restriction mindset. For a lot of us who experience stress and anxiety on Thanksgiving, it's really important that our head is in a good, healthy, stable place. And if we don't feed ourselves all day, we're more likely to feel stressed, and we're more likely to feel anxious, and we're more likely to give into disordered behaviors. So do not get caught in that restriction mindset. Treat it just like a normal day of eating. Okay, you guys, I hope that was helpful. This is hilarious. One thing I wanted to show you guys is I got a mic. I'm gonna start a podcast. Testing. Just kidding. It's not plugged in my camera, so that didn't even work. And now that I've announced it on this video, I have no way to back out now. But if you have any suggestions for people you want me to interview, for topics that you want me to talk about, just drop them in the comments below, and give me ideas, because I'm super excited about this and I feel like I have 1,000 things I want to talk about, but I want to know what you guys want to hear. And lastly, I have 2 scholarship spots left for my intuitive eating masterclass. So if you haven't heard about my intuitive eating masterclass, it is for anyone who's just learning how to intuitively eat, whether you're recovering from an eating disorder, disordered eating, chronic dieting, or just want to learn how to connect to your body and not obsess about food anymore. This is the program for you. So again, I have 2 scholarship opportunities available. Just reach out to me. You can either email me at annawegnercoaching@gmail.com, or you can DM me on my Instagram at thinkoutsidethebod. And if this is something that you're interested in, let me know. It's a 3-month program. You're going to get one-on-one coaching. You're going to get homework. And by the end of it, you will be an intuitive eater and you will have an awesome relationship with food where you no longer obsess about food. You don't have to think twice about it. Food gets to be fun and easy for you. So I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I will talk to you soon.